is your rabbit's coat color looking either different than it used to be, maybe completely changing the color, or so you think, and you're trying to figure out either, is there something wrong with the rabbit? Are you doing something wrong? Or is it even fixable? So I want to calm your fears. There is likely nothing wrong with the rabbit specifically, but it could be something about the living environment, or it could just be going through something really simple that you're just gonna have to wait out. So I'm gonna walk you through some of the reasons that a coat color can change, some things you can do about it to hopefully fix the situation, how to prevent it from happening for some of the situations, and then how to either speed up a molt or slow it down a little bit, but you're not gonna make it completely not happen. That's just facts of life. I wish it were not the case. Hey there, I'm Leah. I raise show quality French lap rabbits, and I help rabbit raisers have profitable, healthy, and efficient rabbitries. Now, I had someone DM me and asking, without sending pictures at first, if it was possible for their rabbit to be broken, in other words, the broken pattern, with just the nose markings. So something told me something wasn't quite right. So I asked for pictures. Anytime I get a message asking something that I'm like, I want to see pictures, because a lot of times what people think something isn't what it is at all. So if you are in that kind of situation and you feel like that, don't worry. Don't feel like you've asked a dumb question. There's no such thing as a dumb question. There's only a dumb question that was never asked. Okay? So in their instance, what had happened was the rabbit was a black rabbit. It was starting to molt and the hair was turning brown. That is normal for a coat that is dying off, essentially, and it needs to shed the fur. There's nothing you can do about it except wait for the process to happen. We'll talk more about that later, but I want to talk about the one main thing that can really happen to your rabbit that can unfortunately ruin a show career, because I have seen rabbits be pulled from the show table because essentially bleached fur is a disqualification. So how can we avoid that? Because that is the simplest one to tackle. So we're going to go outside and look at some things to where you can make some changes fairly easily with your rabbit housing. So essentially what is happening when the rabbit's fur gets sun bleached is that the sun is breaking down the coloration of the coat. If a rabbit is white, it's not going to have it as much of an issue. So the sun rises over here and comes and sets over there. So this type of situation, direct sunlight towards sundown, not a good situation, both for keeping your rabbit cool, and it will bleach the coat. The only reason it's there is because that's when we moved, that's where it got plopped. But there's a tarp that when I do need to use it, and mostly that's in the wintertime, I will put that tarp over the front. And so there's no direct sunlight. Then we turn over here. This is where the majority of the rabbits are housed, in here. And the sun comes up over here, turns and sets. And so the sun doesn't hit open either of these. So there's 2 rows of these hutches facing each other. So there's none there. And then of course I do have 4 or 5 housing units in there. So if you have the option, turn them at the very least. If you don't have shade and you're not blessed with that like I am, at the very least, keep their backs to the sun at all times. So if at all possible, try to rearrange the hutches in the direction to keep the rabbits out of the sun as much as possible. Even if there is like half sun or half, they can still get out of it themselves. If you're showing the rabbit and you want their coat to stay the way it should, try and get it fully out of the sun, because I had a couple of dumb ones that just love to bask in the sun. And so they're going to bleach their coat. So don't give them the option. Unfortunately, I don't have any miscolorations right now that I can show you, but the other one is that blue and black rabbits, not combined, but a blue colored rabbit and a black one. Those 2 colors for the most part will turn brown if the color of the coat or the fur itself is like dying off and it needs shedded, even if they're not clearly molting. So if you're not aware of what molting is, the rabbits blow like chunks of fur and they look like something is drastically wrong. Some can do it just a little bit over across their shoulders for the most part, but some, will blow an entire back worth of fur, or, and you can just like pull it out like a cloud. And so either way, it doesn't matter if they molt or not. If it's just the coat needs to come out, then it's just got to come out. Like there's not much you can do that, which that was what the case was with the person who DM'd me. So I have their permission, but this is what their fur coat looked like for their black rabbit. So it was just turning brown and the coat needed to come out, and just got to kind of wait for it. So I was also able to detect that their rabbit was not in any direct sunlight at all. The other thing that can cause coat discoloration, and this is going to more or less affect white rabbits more than anything, but the urine will also bleach the coat, turn it orange, black, that more into brown, things like that. But it will also cause the fur to stick together. It might be not it peeing on itself, but it could be another rabbit close by, bucks spray, and it's not quite like a cat, but they fling the pee. They'll like spray and swing their butt at the same time, and it kind of just goes everywhere. So that can also be covering the rabbit as well. So in that case, if you can put a divider down a row somehow to block the neighbors from each other, then try that. You may have to reposition things again to see who's causing the trouble. A lot of times it's the boys that are spraying each other. It could be the girls, but most often it's the boys. What you can do is, this is one reason why I don't house all my boys close to each other. It's because they're challenging each other. They see each other and they're like, yeah, I'm barely, all the boy arguments, right? And so that way they're not at least close enough to be talking trash. So I don't have as much spraying, and then they're not, fussing as much. And it also helps when I'm breeding, so they're not getting distracted by each other, because you take the doe to the buck's cage and we don't need other critters distracting each other, right?
Hey, are you tired of rabbit advice that's just a little bit more out there and far less practical than you would like? If you are struggling to get straight answers, what do rabbits really need, but you're not interested in letting them run free in your home and chew your baseboards, you need to sign up for my Rabbitry Standard newsletter, where I am sharing advice just to help you get practical care advice for rabbits, learn how to keep them outside if you want to keep them in your home, but a little bit more contained, you're also welcome, and how to raise rabbits that either one, support your homesteading goals, or you want to get into showing, or you want your kids to start 4-H, anything like that. Those resources are linked below, and you will get some amazing free guides sent your way upon sign up. I'll see you inside.
All right, let's talk about slowing the molt down, or the coat shedding down. It's a tough one. I'm not going to honestly admit that you can slow it down that much. But what I noticed for myself was I started feeding calf Mana Pro brand, to the rabbits, and I started about a month before, maybe 6 weeks before Lab Nationals, and it seemed to keep the rabbits' coat in longer throughout the year. So I do a very small amount, like enough to where they get like 5 or 6 pellets per daily serving. Just enough to keep them eating, keep their nutrition up. But I think it did slow down their spring molting. So the Lab Nationals was early May. It starts warming up about then. They start kicking out their winter fur. They had a few a few little tufts around their tail that you could pull out, and but it wasn't bad. Usually when I don't do that, a lot of them have been blowing their coats like crazy. Now it's fall, they're blowing it like crazy right now. But let me show you the calf Mana and what that looks like. All right, I keep it in this tub here, and it is a red smelling, it's sweet. And that's about what it looks like in real person for the coloring. I use not even that much, about that much, poured into about 8 quarts of feed. And you can kind of see the leftovers. That's about how much is in there when I feed them. So I don't want that much, because the rabbits get addicted easily to food. So that's what the bag looks like. It's an all stock feed. And then I will link to it in the description so you can see and read over the ingredients yourself. So its whole goal is basically a performance supplement. So you can see that there. And then promotes healthy growth, supports more energy, palatability, obviously, in other words, eat it. And then energy and shiny coat, and then better digest. So all of those things that it does list, I noticed those results for feeding it. So I do think it's worth it. However, like I said, rabbits get addicted to food. And so you need to be very careful how much you give it. And usually the younger ones, I'll give it to them while they're young up until like 4 to 6 weeks. Then when I separate them out, I'll slow it down a little bit until they're probably, I haven't decided how late I want to do it yet. But what I ran into was the youngsters were digging in the food a lot. They were looking for those pellets first. They were still eating, but they were looking for the good stuff first. So that is something that I want to try to avoid. So once they're probably 4 or 5 months, then I'll go back to giving it to them. And then they'll finish out with the growth supplement and the performance supplement, just because it's not helping if they're not eating their nutritious food. Does that make sense? So depending on how desperate you are or how badly you want to keep their coat in check, I would highly recommend trying to do that. If you're getting towards July and August, I don't know how well that's going to work, just because it's hot for a long time and you can't fight nature. So the other tips are doing things like frozen bottles, frozen ceramic tiles, things like that, to help the rabbits stay cooler, because basically it's hot. They're trying to kick out the fur. So trying to slow that down a little bit. I have noticed it helps a little bit, but nothing drastic. Now, if the timing is enough to where you could push them through it and be in better shape than trying to fight the molting, then the next best thing is to try and help them through it as quick as possible. Now, obviously, it's not something you can speed up, but that supplement will help them get the energy back to get the coat going and get that out. You can use certain brushes to help them get it out, and this comb is my absolute favorite. It's got double layer teeth, but they're 2 different layers or 2 different lengths. And so this really helps get into the undercoat and pull out that dead fur, especially with breeds like French Labs who have extremely thick coats, that it tends to like release and then they don't get it out as well. So you can do that as well as taking the little tufts that you see sticking out of their fur a little bit, just take those and pluck them. It's dead fur, it's loose, it's not going to hurt them. And so the better you can move them along with that and make them feel, I've noticed that the good coat starts to come in a whole lot better. I have seen other people add oats or black oil sunflower seeds. I have not proven it out, but I do see a lot of people do it. So could it work? Possibly. My one recommendation to this, though, is all of these things that you might want to try. If you're raising rabbits consistently, I would highly recommend you choose one thing, test it out, and see if it works. Don't try so many new things to where you can't say this is what worked. While when you're in a panic almost, it's tempting to want to do all the things to try and solve the problem. But if it's a 4-H project and it's not your last year or something like that, try one thing at a time, see what works. Or if you've got multiple rabbits, try one thing on each one and then see the results. If you are thinking of getting into rabbits and you need a guide to help you get through this and kind of go like, I don't know what's going on, where to start, how to start planning, then I've got a free guide for you in the description that you can grab that for free, which will take you all the way through planning a rabbitry out, to recommended supplies, all the way to tips on purchasing your first animals. So whether it's sun bleaching or you're just trying to, make your rabbit look better, if you don't show anything and they're just your pets, don't stress about it. Obviously help them groom it out and kind of, move the process along. That's totally fine. The other thing to also remember, and I think this is my observation, the rabbits are going to be grumpier during the molting process. I think they're just a little bit not feeling good, things like that. So just don't pester them. Some people go the route of, oh, they're not feeling good, give them all the love, give them some space. Rabbits don't want hovered on. So when they're feeling crummy, just do what you can to help them, put them away, let them have their space and breathing room. So if you know of someone else who is starting to raise rabbits or thinking about it, send them this video, share it with them, help them get some practical tips around raising rabbits that don't require you to have your rabbit run loose in your home or be free roaming wherever or out on the ground, which is not something I recommend. That's another good way to get terrible looking coats. So if you found it helpful, share it with a friend.